here with my friend. His name's Kenny Omega.
Hello, everyone.
And we talked about a lot of things.
We did cover a lot of issues, topics, from his way of life, from my way of life, and just talking about life.
Yeah, talking about life.
Yeah. So hopefully there was something entertaining and interesting to the people at home.
Yep.
Listening today, or wherever you may be, listening and watching us. I had a great time. Yep. And it didn't really feel like a podcast; it just felt like us shooting the breeze.
Yeah,
so,
it feels like all of our phone conversations.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah.
And I think it's the first time we've been able to sit down and talk during a meal since 2018.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's why this is as long as it is.
Yeah, usually we talk on the phone.
Yep.
Yeah. So what'd you think of the show, bro?
So I was lucky enough to get a sneak peek at the show. And man,
Well, you get a sneak peek of like everything I do.
Yeah. I mean, that's true.
When I
You've
call you
always
up and
been
the
gracious enough.
No,
Yeah.
it's like the idea phase. You're like the only fucking person who understands. You're my only friend who like
Come on.
is
For
like
real?
nerdy enough. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I don't know that many people who are like into the same things as me.
yeah. I mean, we've been able to touch on a lot of topics. And
Yeah.
somehow, I think what really sold it for me, and this is a real deep cut. First time we met, I don't remember the place exactly. I remember exactly what it looks like on the
Yeah.
inside. And we were talking about just animated features. And I had said like, man, I can't believe DC doesn't get more praise for its animated works. And I talked about Justice League Flashpoint. And you had said, yeah, that was one of my favorite movies of the year. And I was like, I think that was one of the best animated movies, like superhero movies of all time.
Yeah,
And I think since then, I really felt like we've been on the same wavelength.
totally, dude.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. You're totally
The Flashpoint Paradox, I think is what it's, yeah. So, yeah, it's ever since then. I remember even since then, you'd called me up and just like, hey, do you remember anything from Neo Geo? Is there anything like,
yeah.
and you'd ask me about Metal Slug. And I was like, of course I know about Metal Slug. It'd be awesome if that was somehow, adapted into something.
Dude, did I tell you what happened with Metal Slug?
I know.
I didn't fucking tell you what happened.
Please tell me what
So it
happened.
wasn't like a random question. I was literally negotiating with SNK
Really?
to acquire Metal Slug.
Well, now I think is the time.
So I went down the road, like got to the 1 yard line, and then I guess the Prince of Saudi Arabia bought the company, and
Yeah.
and then my deal fell apart,
Yeah.
like right at the 1 yard line. But I had scripts
This is
and
a
everything.
shame. Yeah.
Yeah. I had
If you
scripts
could
and
have
everything.
done Metal Slug and Neo Turf Masters, the world would have been a happier place.
Yeah.
I would have. I was a huge Metal Slug fan, and at a time when not many people knew what Metal Slug even was, I just knew that the sprite work, the animations, the gore. It was just
Yeah.
a cool game,
Metal Slug was fucking
Yeah.
tight, bro. So yeah, fuck, I can't believe the Metal Slug. Like, I was like kind of traumatized when the Metal Slug deal fell apart, because, I mean, look, I love Metal Slug, you love Metal Slug, but it is it's a fucking deep cut.
It is.
It is a deep
It
cut,
is.
right?
But I felt like that's right in your wheelhouse, though.
100%. But when
Yeah.
the deep cut of the deep cut of the deep cut, like kind of like, and again, at this time, I didn't know that it was like the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia that was like acquiring the whole company. So I was just like, oh my God, like maybe I'm not as fucking awesome as I think I am.
Don't even start. Not at all, man. Look, I'm happy for SNK. I'm so glad that they have money now to do whatever project it is that they want to do. They're tossing a ton of cash into their projects. Crazy guest characters in their new games coming out. I think they have something like 11 projects on the horizon, something like that. It's an obscene number. So I'm just happy that, someone has breathed new life into the company. And I think, hey, if you want to work with SNK in the future, I can't imagine them not wanting to work with you.
For sure, yeah.
It's just sort of like a maybe not now thing, but maybe in the future. And in fact, now they have more money. Maybe there'll be more of a budget to really produce your vision.
Right. And at the end of the day, The issue was it's not like they didn't want to work with me. They didn't want to sell me Metal Slug, which is fair. Like it's like
Right.
they're
Yeah.
Wait, how the fuck are you not in King of Fighters?
Hey man, the Prince likes soccer players, not wrestlers. I don't know.
That's insane. That's like a huge missed opportunity that you are not in King of Fighters.
The truth of the matter is, you know, I'm just a dude, and I'm also just a professional wrestler. And I'm lucky that there are people, very kind, loyal, passionate fans that watch professional wrestling, and they consume it multiple times throughout the week because there's so much wrestling all over the world now.
Sure.
And whether you're a fan of WWE, AEW, you know, stateside, or if you watch Lucha Libre or something in the UK or something from Japan, there's an option for you. There's some sort of streaming service available to you to watch it. So wrestling, I think now has sort of become more accepted. Yeah. But still, I mean, even if I were in the NHL or NBA or MLB, nothing really compares to just how popular soccer/football is. So I don't blame them for seeking out Ronaldo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's but I mean, that's not to say that there's not going to be more guest characters, right? Who knows? And I'm just a phone call away.
The other way we could, I'm saying,
and maybe I don't know. Maybe they just look at me as a Street Fighter guy too. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I kind of look at you as a Street Fighter guy.
I mean, that's what I've put a lot of my chips into.
But that's the opportunity, right? Like, like at the end of the day, like, Wrestling Federation wants to get, like, when WWE got Sting, it was a big deal because they're like, we got the WCW guy and brought him in. It's like the same thing. But the other way, I'm saying we could do it. That sounds ridiculous. The way they could do it is have you be Terry Bogard.
Yeah. Right? You mean like actually be him?
Yeah, like,
or just like someone that kind of looks like him and a representative in that sense.
So because
one thing that is rare, I mean, name me one fighting game character that you can think of off the top of your head that was a strong representative from Canada. Can you think of one?
Dude, you're right. That's like racism.
A little bit.
That's fucking racism, bro.
It's fascism.
It's fascism and racism.
Finest.
Yeah.
At its finest.
Every fighting game
2025. Can you believe this?
Yeah.
You know, like one of my favorite characters actually in Street Fighter V, and he's actually kind of sort of pseudo from Final Fight as well. His name's Abigail. So he's actually technically from Canada. But no one really knows that. You know, because he's like now living in Metro City, right?
Yeah.
With Hagar and Cody and the like guy, everyone that was part of the Final Fight universe. But there's no real like, hey, this is our Canadian, and he's an ass kicker, or she, or they, or whatever. And we just don't have anyone like that. And my default is like, when was the last time we ever had anything like that? And I think maybe like Punch-Out with like Big Bear Hugger, which was, of course, it was like all the Canadian tropes. It was a lumberjack. He had like maple syrup attacks. He would give you a big bear hug. It was just like, it wasn't a cool Canadian. You know what I mean? And not saying that I embody that whatsoever, but I would try my best, you know? And I sort of feel like, I think grappling characters in general, they're just misrepresented a little bit. 100%. And I would love to be sort of like that hybrid pro wrestler from Canada. And because we do have a deep rooted wrestling culture in Canada, you know, with the Hart family and all that. So it'd be really cool. And if you want to say like, hey, I played hockey in my youth or whatever, and I could do a slap shot, or I live in an igloo, whatever you want. You know what I mean? That's totally fine by me.
Give you a ridiculous cutscene. It's a backstory. Exactly,
I am totally cool with that. And I wouldn't look at that as a slight whatsoever to my Canadianism. It's I would be more than proud to represent Canada in any respect. So, I mean, that's really the dream, though.
Did you like? Sorry, completely, almost non sequitur, but there's a reason I'm asking you this. Did you like that my Devil May Cry show, was set in New York?
So for the aesthetic, absolutely. One thing that I loved about it, and this is going to sound so trivial, but the city feels so alive and it feels so busy. And when you really think about, you know, the 90s, early 2000s, for me, I think about things like live action TMNT, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Manhattan.
Totally.
And I'm thinking about like, you know, manhole covers with, you know, the smoke coming out of it and stuff like that. And just, you know, hoodlums around every street corner, dark back alleys, you know, dance clubs like from the original Terminator. And I just feel like if you really want to show that in its entirety and in its most effectiveness, New York is always a great place to do it. And I think that's why it works so well for like Spider-Man and so many of like the heroes and villains of the times when we grew up as kids. So I think if you're just really trying to show 90s, 2000s culture and just culture in general, it's a big melting pot for everything.
So the first draft was not set in New York.
Where was it? Was it Canada?
Nope.
Where could it have been?
Metro City.
Metro City?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? That's actually really clever. Yeah. That would have been something. And what made you go against that? If you don't mind me asking. Because actually Street Fighter 6, you know, that story takes place in Metro City. And it works really well, I think. You know, the big statue of Mayor Hager. Yeah,
and that's kind of the issue. Like, I'm like, I can't set it in Metro City without having Mayor. It's Hager. I call him Hagar.
Oh, yeah.
It's Hager.
Hager.
I have this thing where
Mike Hager.
I always routinely mispronounce names, and then I stick with them.
So for me, it's just like you know, like when someone looks haggard,
right?
You know, I just kind of like if you take out the D, you know, the ED, right. So he's Hager.
Wait,
how do you pronounce it again?
Hagar.
Hagar, like Sammy Hagar.
Yeah,
but it's double G A-R.
I know.
I don't know, man. We might need to fact check that. Where's Grok at? You know?
Mean, you're 100% right. And I'm definitely wrong.
Am I?
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, but to answer your question, it was a Capcom thing where they were like, so Capcom only gave me, you know, we talked about this earlier. I had like full creative control.
Yep, which is incredible.
No one got to tell me anything.
That implicit trust that they've given you is just what a lovely thing to have. When there's red tape, just things always get, they
get sucky.
Yeah,
very fast.
Exactly.
Well, they get diluted. It becomes paint by numbers. It becomes corporate. You start playing it safe. Not that I took like any crazy wild risks with the show.
I mean, like a perfect example, and this is off the top of my head. I'm just pulling this right out of my ass. But like the original Mortal Kombat versus DC, where DC was like, "Yeah, we'd love to do a game with you, but you can't fatality our characters. They can't die in your game."
Yeah,
that sucked.
It was terrible.
And the game underperformed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now that's not an issue whatsoever. All the guest characters are doing crazy fatalities, and they look so good.
As they should.
Absolutely.
Like the Ninja Turtles absolutely need to be doing skateboard fatalities.
Yes.
Like, why would they not?
I don't know.
But
it makes sense, though. Like, if you're in Hager City, and Cody's there, and Guy's there, and Mai's there, like, and everyone is there, why would they not be seen or get involved in some way, shape, form, or fashion?
Yeah.
Eventually, you'd have to cross that bridge, probably.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I was kind of going for a more Nolan-esque tone, right? I wanted a very serious, very dark, very dangerous, very dilapidated world.
Yep.
And Dante is an outlier. He's the one who doesn't fit into the universe, right? He's like not necessarily fish out of water, but like he's not taking things seriously. He's jokey. And again, he's doing this because he's hiding deeper issues. And he's just kind of learned to cope with.
So that's why when I was watching it, it sort of felt like, in a way, and it's totally not the vibe whatsoever, but because Dante is so overpowered in a world of muggles, you know what I mean? To steal a term from Harry Potter. It's like, It kind of reminded me a little bit of the original Terminator, where, you know, you had Arnold walking around who couldn't be affected or killed by anybody, and it would take someone with extreme power and knowledge to be able to do so. and you're in a world that isn't technologically advanced as him. And in this case, it's just a matter of power levels and fight capability as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
It reminded me a little bit of Terminator, but also in a way, it also sort of has a cyberpunk feel to it. And I don't know, that might sound odd.
No, it does. It does.
Yeah,
Clearly. I mean,
because
with
of
Dark
Dante's style, like the thing with Devil May Cry was it was the stylish action game.
Yeah.
That's how they always wanted to promote the game. This is like stylish action.
Mm-hmm.
So for Dante to dress the way that he does, act the way that he does, fight the way that he does, it's very stylish and almost like ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you see the action scenes in this show, I mean, you guys nail it. It's visceral, it's violent, but at the same time, it's still so stylish. And the way that it's, I'm going to say for lack, because again, it's animated, but I'm going to say the way that it was shot
mm-hmm.
is that it seems like something that you could never see, especially from American animation in the 90s or 2000s. But here we are, 2025, and you're depicting this time that had already passed from a game that we've all played, or some of us have played, a lot of us have played, or at least are familiar with. It's a conundrum, but I love it because it's a blast from the past for me to see the world that I grew up in. But, you see Dante in 2025 doing what he does as though I were controlling him, but I'm not. I definitely
I didn't want to modernize it.
No,
at all.
Yeah.
That was like my first. It was like I will not modernize this,
right?
Because I wanted to recreate the memory of playing it on PS2.
Exactly, and that's what it did.
And
absolutely.
even though season 1, the idea was not to really go the goth way.
Yep.
Because
you could have.
I could have.
Yeah,
but I really wanted to set it. In my mind,
there was that goth movie. What was it? There was actually she was a
Underworld.
That's the one.
Yeah,
that's exactly the one. Yeah, where it was like hues of blue and a lot of kind of like Matrixy,
always
dark
at
trench
night,
exactly.
Always raining.
Yes.
Yeah. That was how this show existed in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I had the story all beaten out, I was like...
And then once you got to Devil May Cry 2 and 3, it kind of appeared that way a little bit too, where, you're in these large cities, but because of the hardware capabilities or lack thereof, you didn't have streets of populated with people and cars. And it was just, you're in a big empty city.
Yes.
And you're fighting a lot of demons as Dante or Nero or whoever. And it's like, now that we do have the capability to bring this to life, you're bringing Dante to life back from a time where we grew up in, but now these streets are populated. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of see how there's collateral damage involved. How could this have happened? And again, it's not modernizing it whatsoever. It's almost retrofitting it. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Yep.
Okay, and the other thing that I was doing, or at least attempting to do, and I believe I pulled it off, was approach Dante with psychological realism, right? Because you have this character from the games, and I was just like, well, how would he deal with all these things that happen to him? Because it's like some tragic. His backstory is tragic.
Absolutely,
it's like deeply tragic, right? So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
All of the heroes in the story have some sort of. It's all laced with tragedy. But yeah, absolutely,
it was. Yeah, and that's like really what
was that challenging, by the way, to add life to the world that was otherwise it was sort of void of life in the games. When you're fighting throughout the castle, you would only see the demons. When you're fighting throughout the city, you'd only see the demons. But now, Dante has to coexist and fight around these other living individuals. And you also sort of see how the government is dealing with Dante's existence and the demon's existence.
That to me was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because it was essentially like, okay, the video games are showing you this.
Yep.
I'm going to show you that.
Right. In that regard, it reminded me, and this is going to sound wild, but that part reminded me a little bit of like Godzilla. Where it was like, you know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
You could have Godzilla tearing shit up kicking down buildings, swatting down planes, but you never really see how it affects the human life around them. And then until it became sort of like, they would attack it from a political viewpoint and how this relates to, the ill effects of nuclear war and such. And I think they really did a great job of it in the most recent Godzilla movie.
-1?
Yeah. Oh, it was incredible. I actually think it was my favorite. I was a lifelong Godzilla fan. My father got me into Godzilla movies when I was super young. I have all these tapes still at my original home in Canada, but you never really see the human side of it. And nor did you really want to, because I felt that when they started to introduce human characters, it was boring. But in this case, in this show, you see the stakes and how it actually is very terrible for human existence for these demons to be able to cross over into our world.
Yeah.
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 And it doesn't seem tacked on. It's not boring. It's not some sort of metaphorical commentary on today's society or anything like that.
I just wanted to play it completely real.
It's just fucking fun.
I just wanted to play it completely real.
Yep.
So Dante's fun. He's having a good-ish time, right? But yeah, I wanted to play it completely real, completely straight. So
and that was the cool part about Dante too, is he almost doesn't even realize himself the stakes that are, or what is exactly at stake by his existence.
Yeah.
And by him existing with the power that he has, which is very cool to follow along and investigate as you progress through the show.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun creating a story or concocting a story using all of these great MacGuffins that exist from the games.
Yeah, I always get a MacGuffin from McDonald's in the morning. I'm just kidding. That was a terrible joke.
That was a great joke.
Oh,
dude.
thank you, man. Thank you.
I love your jokes.
Yeah, thank you. I try hard. I've saved that one for a while. I haven't known anyone but you to use the word MacGuffin.
Really?
No, for real. It's the first time I've heard it in a long time.
I say MacGuffin every fucking day.
Really?
Every day. I'm talking about some MacGuffin. I mean, I guess because I'm now predominantly
industry
a writer.
term?
More like a storytelling term, like you look at especially in blockbuster cinema, they're always chasing a MacGuffin.
Yep.
It's like, oh, what is the pencil of doom? Oh no, the villain has the pencil of doom. If he clicks it 3 times, the world blows up. Quick, we have to stop him. But to stop him, we need this other MacGuffin.
So you know what we have in wrestling for that, right?
No.
We just use gimmick. Gimmick for everything.
Yes.
So that's why I haven't heard MacGuffin, because I'm always around wrestlers. They just say, yeah, so this guy, he's got this sword gimmick, and if he uses that gimmick, it stops the guy from doing his gimmick. And what exactly is the gimmick? Can someone define what the gimmick is? It's just a generalized term for everything. If you don't really want to go in depth and explain it.
My favorite instance of a wrestler using the word gimmick.
Yeah.
2 wrestlers were married. We're getting married. So we're at the wedding.
Yep.
I get a text message from another wrestler.
Yep.
Saying, what time's the gimmick start?
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's already started. You're late.
Right.
It's not a gimmick. It's a wedding.
But that's the thing, though. Does that mean the wedding or the after party, or what exactly? What does it mean? Sometimes you need clarification. But it's almost an unconscious thing with wrestlers where when we do communicate the gimmick, somehow we know what exactly it is we're talking about. Most of the time, especially when it's amongst close friends within the industry. So I think MacGuffin is probably used in a very similar way.
Absolutely.
In my estimation.
Yeah. It's a not necessarily an insider term, but it's used in an insider way to create familiarity and kind of a shorthand. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you don't want to get into depth into something. Just say that word and they can fill in the blanks.
Dude, by the way, seeing the show your performance last night was amazing. It was amazing.
Oh, thank you. It's it's crazy. Coming on 26 years. I'm over 40 now. It's getting more and more difficult. So it's great that I get to, through that and through wrestling and being able to travel the world and meet new people. Meeting you was actually through wrestling. If it wasn't for wrestling, I wouldn't have met you and become your friend, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity to consume Devil May Cry. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to possibly be a character in Devil May Cry. I don't know.
You play Solid Snake.
That's right. Yeah, pretty much.
You play
yeah,
Solid Snake.
Yeah. So you guys can look forward to that. Yeah, there's you will hear a little bit if this voice of mine sounds familiar when you're watching the show. I did indeed lend my voice and my talent and or lack thereof to the show, but I tried my best.
This is the second show we've done together, man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
This time you didn't play yourself.
I didn't play myself this time. Yeah, but in Captain Laserhawk as well, I played myself, and that was a lot of fun.
And you survived, unlike Cody.
I actually survived.
Unlike Cody.
Cody was dead right away.
He like died right away.
Quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna get done dirty just like Cody.
Yeah.
And I think the fans thought so too, because they're like, "Oh, it's Cody," and then I think his head blew up right away,
Like
right?
immediately.
Yeah, just boom.
It's like he did not finish his story in Captain Laserhawk.
Nope, not at all.
No.
Nope. He was Running Man.
Totally.
Yeah. But I survived. I don't want to spoil it if I survive in this one or not. You have to watch it for yourself. But maybe I do again. But again, it's not me this time. I actually have a character.
It's a performance.
Yeah, exactly. It's a performance.
It was all a performance, but this is a performance. You embodied a new being.
Yeah.
And brought them to life.
Yeah. But it's awesome. Like being able to do stuff with some of the things that I've loved throughout the years and things that have inspired me. I wouldn't have been able to do it without wrestling. And I think part of that is the reason why I'm still involved in it. I get to meet all these interesting people. The fans are, again, like I'd said earlier on in this podcast, it's just they're so passionate. And when I can make someone's day or make them smile, make them laugh, or if it's my job to do something else with that, make them cry, make them angry, toss their drink at me. When you have that power and the ability to change someone's day like that or heighten their experience while wanting to be entertained, it's like, how do you give it up? You know what I mean? And it's great through that. Now I'm being rewarded by being able to work amongst people like you with the things and the projects that I grew up loving and the things that made me smile, the things that made me laugh, the things that I would go to school and talk with my friends and stuff, or the things that I would, just think about when I was at school. Because as soon as I got home, I would run home and play, Devil May Cry 1. I still remember those days, playing the original Devil May Cry. And I think that's the only Devil May Cry that I've played 3 times now. I've played it 3 times, like start to finish. I think I played the original twice. And then I remember when the HD Remaster Collection came out, like the first 3.
Yeah.
I played them all over again as well.
Wow.
And the first, especially the first one, I don't know like if there's Devil May Cry fans among us right now. But to me, the first one just always has a special place for me.
Yeah. I mean, you can... I'm trying to think how to articulate this in a way where I won't get yelled at. Look, Devil May Cry is a media franchise, right?
Yeah.
Capcom, great. But
yeah,
1 was like on its own.
Yeah.
Right? 2 was on its own.
Yep.
And then 3, 4, and 5 are a set.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I would, I think, 3 was... I remember 3 was incredibly difficult.
Very.
And I remember...
Arguably too difficult. At times.
Yes. A lot of people would admit as such.
Yeah.
4, I felt that when 4 came out, 4 was like where they really found their foothold in that stylish sort of way of... Like Dante was just super stylish in 4. That's when he was. You'd have the elongated cutscenes of him, dancing like Michael Jackson and stuff like that. You know what I mean? There would always be really cool, like anytime he got a new weapon, anytime he got a new power, there was something cool and witty he would do or say, and I love. For me, my second favorite of the series is actually 4. Believe it or not.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I mean, for other people, maybe it doesn't, but it's a nostalgia thing too. You know what I mean? It was maybe place and time in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't know.
remember when 4 came out, people were like not happy that Nero was a character.
Yeah.
They were like and now it's like, you know, people's favorite character and whatnot. But at the time, like people were like pissed off. Like, who is this Nero?
Yeah. And I think, people were stoked when he became a character in Marvel vs. Capcom as well, 3. And even to this day, I think he's like one of the most top tier characters you can pick. Dante 2 is actually still really powerful. And I like that there are some Marvel vs. Capcom isms with Dante as well in the show.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I would say this show is equally inspired by Marvel vs. Capcom as it is by like the Devil May Cry games.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know, it was like fuck. I don't know what I'm trying to even say here or how to say it, but
I found myself when I was watching the show and I don't know if it was because Devil May Cry 1 for me is such like a nostalgia hit, but I was finding ways to tether every scene, every fight sequence, every line of dialogue to something that I had seen in my past that I really enjoyed. Like we had spoken in the car, you know, there's a clubbing scene at one point, there's a car chase scene at one point. It's like, this reminds me of this reminds me of that. The musical selections, the type of emotions that it invokes, and the types of, like I said, like when the fans at home, when you hear the music selections, it's just like the action is so well choreographed, but then there's these songs that you maybe haven't listened to in a decade or maybe decades, and you're singing the song and bobbing your head while these crazy action sequences are playing out live and in real time. And it's like you're reliving it, except you're not the one actually controlling it now. You're just able to sit down and enjoy the ride. I think that's what makes the series so fun, in my opinion. And I really do think that fans of the games and just people that love like cool animated features, people that love a good story, great art. The art direction is incredible. I would love to actually ask you to talk a little bit more about the art direction and the people that you entrusted with the vision.
So I got like really granular with the designs and the inspirations behind the designs.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the things that I had to be careful with is I couldn't have Dante be too flamboyant because this is the earliest iteration of Dante we've ever experienced visually.
Right. Yeah.
So there had to be a simplicity. I mean, dude, if I hadn't been thinking about that, if I hadn't been thinking in terms of story, he'd have had like a crazy outfit.
Yep.
Because his outfits are like awesome.
Yep,
I mean, he's kind of like he's almost like King of Fighters level. Or even superior in terms of just like fashion iconography.
For sure.
Right?
For
You're like,
sure.
I want to dress like that guy.
Yeah, like Iori. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. This is sort of like the Dante before Dante even knew how powerful he was.
Exactly. He's like figuring it out. This was very like Batman Begins in that way.
He was very like laissez-faire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't even know that he's a demon. He's like, I just hunt these things because. What do you mean I'm a demon? And he's like, hasn't really even like put thought into why he has these special abilities. And he's like, yeah, because I'm like a superhero. Like, I'm awesome. That's why I can do this. And they're like, no, dude, you're a fucking demon. It was fun weaving the humor of Dante into this whole like very serious situation.
Yeah. A question, actually, and I don't even know if this is something I'm allowed to tackle in this show.
Yeah, anything.
So, there was a reimagining of Dante in one of the Devil May Cries.
Yeah. DMC.
Right, that's right. So,
or actually, it's more DMC.
Yes. What made you go with the original, or more or less the original design of Dante over the sort of like the emo-y,
the emo one? For me, it was just a
or alternatively, an entirely new design. Completely change his look, change his coat. Maybe he doesn't have a coat. Maybe he doesn't use ballers. Maybe he doesn't even have a sword. Maybe he doesn't get any new weapons.
Well, I mean, that's why his guns are not ebony and ivory.
Right. Oh, yes, that's true. They're just Glocks. You're right.
Yeah, and they like break and shit because he still hasn't, Yep. And in the games, he actually uses demon power to generate bullets. That's why you have infinite ammo.
Yep.
He doesn't know he can do that yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that's it's very
So, why did I go with Dante with white hair over emo Dante? For me, it was personal preference.
Or why did you not create your own version of Dante? Just like, hey, you know what? Like, as you may or may not know, Max had announced that they're doing a reboot of Harry Potter and they're recasting Snape. Unfortunately, the actor had unfortunately passed.
Yeah, Alan Rickman, legend.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesus. So, I don't know if I can say Jesus, but it's just a reactionary thing.
Sure,
but Jesus Murphy, But yeah, legendary actor, incredible work, incredible resume of just body of work. But, they've decided to go a different route creatively. And it sounded like you had almost complete creative license to do whatever you wanted to do.
Absolutely. So if I wanted to do with this what I did with Captain Laserhawk, I could have. I absolutely could have.
Yeah.
I could have done a bizarro spin on any of it, all of it.
Yeah. Was that due to a love for the games or?
It didn't feel right with this IP.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel right with this IP, right? I went, okay, you've got this reboot, and there's a lot of things to like about the reboot.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Right? Like,
there were some sick bosses in the reboot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even like narratively, right? Like
true. Yeah.
There's maybe like hints of the reboot in it, and it wasn't because I was like, oh, I want to get hints of the reboot in the show. It just kind of happened organically when I thought about it. When I took a step back and I went, whoa, I am critiquing the media and the government.
Absolutely.
And
you were. Yeah.
The media working with the government and all that. Like you're like, oh, okay, that didn't come from the reboot, but the reboot also kind of touches on
it does
on that as well.
Absolutely.
So I'm just like a fan of OG Dante.
Yeah,
first and
I
foremost.
think a lot of people are, and I think that, I mean, for me, again, I'm not the one making the decisions, but as an original Devil May Cry fan, and I think anyone that is probably going to be very happy that this Dante is represented in that light. So,
and I just really like my agenda here was very different than my agenda with Laserhawk or Guardians of Justice.
Yeah.
Where with those, I just wanted to do something fucking nuts.
Yeah.
I wanted to go as wild as possible and create storytelling innovations in terms of like tone, pacing, shifting mediums every 5 to 10 seconds and whatnot. With here, I mean, ultimately, I was going for a broader audience, not watering it down or diluting it or making it super like a corp. Yeah. I don't want to make corpo entertainment, but I did want to go for a bigger, more mainstream audience because my goal here was I loved Hollywood blockbuster movies from 97 to 2004, right?
Yeah.
Hollywood, I didn't live in America. I loved Hollywood blockbusters. I was like, I want to move to America and one day be able to make things like this, right? So it was very much like fitting Devil May Cry into that framework.
Yeah.
And
one thing I used to say with my friends, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was just say one thing I always say to my friends, or still say to my friends, is like, man, do you remember when movies just had to be good?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't just release a turd and then say like, okay, buy a ticket to this, and then people will just be okay, and they'll do it, and then you can make a sequel and drop another turd, and they'll buy that too. Like, they just had to be good. Like it's sad to say, but like I don't think we'll ever see the days of,
Yeah,
of
so-
another original RoboCop. You know what I mean? Or another Total Recall. We just won't get it anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and this was also part of it is the blockbusters are just done so badly now, in my opinion. Right? They're
It's-
generic. It's like definitely
yeah.
like a boardroom of like suits sitting around being like, what is the lowest common denominator? And like, right?
Yeah.
So I went, okay, so I'm in this kind of crazy situation as an artist where I have now complete control over this IP. Like I have Netflix it's gonna like fund what I do
Right.
and not really tell me what to do or how to do it or what to say and whatnot, right? So I'm like, okay, let me just make the best blockbuster
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
and do it in animation form so that it doesn't cost $200, $300, $1 billion. Like if this,
Right.
if season 1 of
Yeah.
Devil May Cry were in live action,
Yeah.
it would have been like the most expensive
It would have
TV
been-
show ever made.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I was thinking in that context, I was just like, I
Right.
was actually like, oh, what are some insane set pieces, right?
Right. Yep.
And
it's just chock full of set pieces. They're incredible.
Like-
yeah.
and I would just come up with these insane set pieces, and some of them are actually riffs off of other set pieces that I loved. Right? It's like kind of tipping my hat, paying homage
Yeah. Yep.
to, like in episode 1 when Dante shoots
The floor out from under him.
the floor
Yeah,
from
yep.
under him, right? So that was an homage to Underworld. But Underworld was ripping it off from that Hong Kong movie, and you know,
Yeah.
so I'm just trying to figure out the lineage of like, okay, who is the first person to shoot the floor out from under them,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, it was definitely like my love letter to the Hollywood blockbuster, and that has now fallen by the
The
wayside.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's not to say everything that's released isn't good. It's not that at all. I'm sure there's stuff that is enjoyable. It's gotten to a point for me now too, with someone who has such, just time is always an issue, and it's like it's almost I can't trust myself to devote time to something that's going to let me down.
Yes.
So it's very difficult now
Yeah.
to commit to like I'm going to go to a theatre,
Absolutely.
to the cinema.
Well, this was actually, so
Like I think last time I went
Okay.
to a movie, just because I knew I would be getting exactly what I was expecting, was when I went to go see the Terrifier 3.
sure.
Because I knew exactly what I was going into. I knew that I wanted to see a gore fest.
And it's also one dude
Yep.
makes that.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
his vision.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I mean, usually these things work better when it's like one dude's vision,
Yeah.
maybe a couple dudes, maybe 3 dudes max, right? But when
Yeah.
it becomes like
Too many cooks in the
too many
kitchen.
cooks, a boardroom, a bunch of people who just aren't fucking trying hard because they don't feel like they're paid enough to try hard,
care,
right? And
yeah.
it's to care, which is one of my frustrations with the entertainment business. And now I've been doing this for 15 years. And
Yeah.
I've been doing it, which is fucking nuts. But
Yeah, it is.
I've been doing it for 15 years. When I first moved to LA in 2008
Yeah.
and started doing this, or at least attempting to do this,
Yeah.
this was the hardest industry to break into, right?
I wouldn't even know how you do it.
Everybody wanted to be doing this.
Yeah.
It was a pipe dream, right?
Yep.
And it was also it was the world's it was actually the World Series. Like if you were a filmmaker in Mexico
Mm-hmm.
and you made a great short film or a great film, your dream was to eventually move to Hollywood
Yep.
and make a Hollywood movie within the ecosystem, right?
Yep.
Everywhere. So everyone wanted to come here, and this was the art like the filmmaking capital of the world.
2008. my
Everybody
goodness,
treated it with respect, right? So the executives felt lucky to be a part of the business. Marketing people felt lucky to be part of the business. There was like there was like this energy
Yep.
to it. And it's fucking gone. Like it feels like I'm dealing with the like a gig economy kind of vibe, right? Which is just kind of sad, and I refuse to participate in that. So years ago when I was like, hey man, I got Metal Slug, I got this, there was a moment where I could have just become more of a suit and scaled a business and been like, okay, well, people, video games are popping off now. Like people finally understand that video games can be more than games. They can be like movies, TV shows and that, and, can build the universe. At this point, I'm one of the only people who's like proven that they can do it. And I know that I can speak to the language of the audience. I have equity with the audience, right? I have equity with the audience. And by the way, that equity with the audience is why I didn't want to change Dante too much. I wanted to kind of ease the audience into my version of Dante.
Yeah.
And not like be like, oh, and now he's got a mullet and
Right.
Not that Dante will ever have a mullet.
Nothing
Never
wrong
say
with that.
never. Nothing wrong with mullets. Mullets are cool.
I mean, I think I might go back to one, to be honest. Yeah, but yeah.
You had a good mullet.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I dig the long hair for now, but different story for another day.
But yeah, there was a moment where I could have overseen a slate, right? Like a big, broad, expansive slate. Oh man, I'm Adi and I have 20 shows under my banner. All these different IPs, and I'm doing that, and I'm like, it didn't make sense at the time, but the more I thought about that, and that was on the table. We've talked about different companies that had come to me, different brands, where I was just like, oh, actually, I can just buy that IP. I'm just gonna go buy it. Now I own it. Great.
Right.
There was something that I found deeply depressing about that.
Really?
Conceptually. Yeah. And that forced me to lock into DMC so deeply and become this like auteur on the show where I'm micromanaging every fucking aspect of it.
Just because you wanted to really commit to this one project and just make sure that you're doing right by the fans.
I didn't want to become a suit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I thought I'd become like a corpo dude. I didn't want to become fucking Haim Saban overseeing a... I shouldn't have talked shit about Haim Saban.
Yeah.
That beef is over.
I dig the Power Rangers. What's going on here, man?
That was like an unnecessary shot. But I didn't want to become a...
But that is a wild story. I heard about the Haim Saban stuff. That's crazy. That stuff.
What, the short film and how he freaked out at me?
Oh no, I don't know about that.
Oh
no, I didn't. No, I just meant the I once watched a YouTube video and it was sort of detailing sort of Haim Saban and like how he was able to create the shows he was using with a very, very limited budget.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah, it really was.
Brilliant.
And the type of camera tricks that he would use to portray, gigantic, robots and cities and things like that. How he would use stock footage for the original Power Rangers. You know what I mean? But, there'd be, when they were in Angel Grove, you'd have the actors and actresses doing their part, but then some of the action sequences, or a lot of the action sequences, would actually just be stuff that they would...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just deeply afraid of being perceived as a business guy. I wanted to make it clear to everybody that I somehow understand the business of the business.
Yeah.
But I can speak to the suits.
Yep.
But I'm doing this to protect the artistry.
Yeah.
And so by essentially going to Capcom.
Yep.
Acquiring the rights. Telling Capcom, doing a deal with the president of Capcom.
Yep.
Where he hands me a piece of paper saying, okay, now you control this. Great. Talking to the development team and saying, you're in great hands.
Do you mean the DMC development team you spoke with? Or you mean your development?
No, the DMC development team.
Wow. I didn't know it went that far. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, look, because I'm... even though I have creative control and whatnot, I'm super collaborative. Like I'm always kind of looping people in, and I'm like, "What do you think?"
Yeah,
right?
If they're an asset for you to use, you might as well.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Absolutely. Like I sent them every draft of every outline of every, every script.
Yeah.
And it was just
Were they privy to like character designs and things like that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They knew everything I was doing.
Was there anything that they were kind of like, oh, I don't know if we like that, but go ahead kind of thing? Or were they all pretty much gung-ho about it?
There were several times where they were like, why are you doing this? Like, what is this? And then I would explain it. Sometimes it would get lost in translation just because of the language barrier.
Yeah, of course,
right?
yeah.
And that was like a huge, not a huge thing.
Yeah.
But you know, I find that the way it worked historically in Hollywood, right? Like everyone wanted a Hollywood movie. That was like your dream. If you were an IP holder or...
Can we like pause for a second?
Yeah.
Just, did you also, when you were working with Ubisoft, did you let the dev team know like, hey, I'm thinking of making Rayman like a drunken newscaster?
Yes.
And they're like, cool. Or were they like, wait a minute?
Well, no. So with Ubisoft, they brought me on to work on Assassin's Creed.
Okay.
So they were like, "Oh, okay, you're Adi. This is great. We're gonna, can you do Assassin's Creed?
Yeah.
And this other IP called For Honor. I was gonna say, but then I realized, okay, you would know For Honor. Yeah.
Of course. Yep.
Again, love the For Honor developers.
Yes.
I met the team at Assassin's Creed. They were lovely, and everyone's reaction at Ubisoft was like, "So you actually like understand games?" I'm like, "Yeah, I play games."
Yeah.
And this is going back.
It's crazy that they would be like, to me, that it always blows my mind when I will hear of a project getting greenlit that would be something that's an adaptation of a video game, and they'll go, the writer, producer, director, actors, actresses, none of them have played the game, and it's like, but we think it's going to be great. It's like. And it's like, like a lot of my favorite series, have been done dirty because of that.
Yeah. Because it doesn't really apply to other things, right? Because again, like if you're adapting a book, if you're a writer and you're adapting a book, you don't have to have like read the book. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to like grow up having read the book. You can just like read the book and go, okay, I can turn this into a movie, right? If you're a director and you're directing the adaptation of a book, you don't have to have like grown up like loving the book and like, oh my God, I love this book. You can just like read the script and then turn it into a thing. Because games are like...
I find this different kind of fandom too.
It's a different kind of fandom, but it's also because it's already been realized. It's been visually realized, right?
That's true. There's already a visual representation of it. You're right.
So if I go into like Mortal Kombat and go, all right, and I'm the director, and I'm like, listen, man, I think this is cool, but why are they fighting? And I think ninjas are lame. So this Sub-Zero guy, I don't like that he's a ninja.
Yeah, let's make him an ice cream salesman or whatever. Yeah.
That's a change you can make in a book. And people will maybe be like, I don't like it, I do like it, whatever, it's just a choice, maybe. But if you do that, in a video game,
it's rough. You're asking for it.
Yeah, you become persona non grata.
Yep.
Like very fast. And guys like you and me who grew up loving games and then were like watching movies based on games, we're like, what the fuck, dude? Why would you make these changes? It's like, doesn't make any sense.
I've sort of gotten to a point in my life now where I'll always be willing to give something a chance. And it'll either not reach my non-existent expectation or I'll be pleasantly surprised. For example, a recent adaptation that I was very happy with was The Last of Us. I thought they did a very fine job with that series. And I know some people might say that, you could have cast so-and-so as better in this role or whatever, but I thought the actors and actresses did a wonderful job, and I thought the writing was incredible. So I thought they did a great job of it. Super Mario movie, again, I thought Super Mario movie was fantastic. That's another one where I was like, man, this is just a fun ride.
You mean the 90s one?
No. And Double Dragon. But those are two examples, right? Where it's like Super Mario movie, like the 90s one, Double Dragon, the 90s one, just like terrible. However, now something that used to make me upset, the original Street Fighter movie, now I love it. I actually love that original.
What changed?
Just maybe getting older and not giving a shit anymore, you know, and just allowing myself to be entertained by what was there. Yeah, I mean, I'm admittedly a huge Jean-Claude Van Damme fan, and I don't think it's his best work at all.
Did I ever tell you the time he cold called me?
No.
I've never told you the story?
No.
He just like cold called me one day. It was just
That's
like
incredible.
2012. And like, I didn't know if it
man.
was actually him, but it like sounded like him.
Yeah. I mean, it's an.
And then he's like, hey, come over to my house. And I'm like,
Where was his house? Belgium?
Marina Del Rey.
Okay.
So I was like, okay.
What did he want to do at his
We
house?
just hung out.
That's awesome. Did you hang out with him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like met his wife, his son.
Yeah.
He was like very nice guy. His daughter.
He seems like a very
Bianca.
pleasant guy,
Yeah, he was
or
a
at least I
pleasant
like
guy.
to think he
He
is.
was a pleasant guy. He had like fucking like martial arts stuff everywhere.
Yeah, he was he just even in his even now to this day, he's always training. Always training. He's not letting father time get the best of him, which is incredible. Same with Stallone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these guys just training just is a part of their lives, and that's wonderful.
He kept calling me Mr. Addy. It was like really interesting. I was like, yeah, I guess I am Mr. Addy. And then he like wrote me a really nice letter afterwards.
Wow.
And I was like,
Man, this stuff like that makes me happy. I don't know. Don't ask me why. Like I have very minimal experiences with like people that people that I'm fans of. Because a lot of the people that I'm like a huge fan of, you know, they're people that I grew up watching when I was like a kid. You know what I mean?
Like Stone Cold.
Steve Austin?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like I love Stone Cold. But
Right.
when I was actually able to meet him and hang out with him and stuff, I remember it was such a fun time.
Yeah.
Like to meet someone that's so down to earth, and that even though, you know, he had done so much in his career and I had only kind of just began my journey in Japan, you know, here we were sitting in a private room signing, you know, pieces of merchandise, and we're just shooting the shit just like normal people would, exchanging stories. You know, I'm telling stories from Japan and he's telling stories from, you know, what happened here and WWF and E. So it was, and just talking like two human beings, and it was great. And really the only other thing that was comparable to that was meeting Keanu Reeves at the Narita Airport Lounge. And I remember the last thing I had done like that night before was I had watched Man of Tai Chi, which I think is an incredible movie. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
I just fucking love it.
He directed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I had told him, I remember telling him, because he saw us, and we were sitting at a table. I was with the other Bullet Club guys at the time, because we all had the same flights. You know, when a tour is done, it's like you all get sent home. You know what I mean? So even though we were going to varying places, we would just kind of meet up in the lounge, hang out, and then some people would go earlier, some people would go later, and my flight was the latest. And, you know, I'm just hanging out, and you never really see celebrities. But, you know, here's this dude with an entourage, and I'm like, man, that's Keanu Reeves, isn't it? And one guy, his name's Bad Luck Fale, big, huge Netherlands dude, Samoan guy. And he's like, who's that? And I was like, one guy, he's in WWE now, Tongaloa, was kind of like, come on, man, are you serious? And he's like, you don't know who Keanu Reeves is? He goes, no. And he's like, okay. He's like, Matrix? He's like, what's that?
Oh my God.
And I'm like, whoa. I was like, okay. He says, well,
Different reference
yeah.
points.
He's like, well, just trust me. He's just a guy. You know,
Right.
he is a guy, and it's weird to see him here at Narita Airport. And he had like two dudes with him, and you just can't help but like actually check to see if it's. So I just keep glancing over. Maybe it looked a little creepy. I don't know. I wasn't trying to be that way with him, but yeah, he finally actually came right up to the table, and he goes, "Hey, I just saw you guys here. You're all wearing like matching tracksuits. Is you guys like part of a sports team or something?" And I was like, "No, we just did a tour for a wrestling organization here, and now it's, you know, we did our job, time to go home," kind of thing. He goes, "That's really cool." He goes like, "How popular would you say like wrestling is over here?" I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of part of the culture. It's pretty big." And he's like, "Man, that's fucking cool. Do you mind if I sit with you guys and just kind of chat about it?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I just like, man, you know what? Like, it's like I got to get off my chest. Like, this is really wild. This is because the last thing I did, like last night before like taking my bag and going to the airport today, was I watched Man of Tai Chi, and fuck, man, it was such a good movie. Like, I really loved it. And he was almost like, "Are you kidding me?" And I was like, "I loved it." And he goes, "Wow." And he goes, "That's the first time I've heard that." He says, "But that means so much to me." Says,
yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, no." I says, "I really mean it." Says, "That was so fun. Your character was great." I don't know, man. He says, "I don't know what to tell you." And he's like, "No." It's like, "Thank you so much." He goes, "Let's take a picture." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, bring it on in." So it's like, yeah, that's my
That's
one.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, but like, I don't really ever meet people outside of like my wrestling circle too much. I mean, now in AEW, like we had yesterday, yourself included, we had quite a few celebrities in the house actually.
Yeah.
And it's become more commonplace now because just it's a thing. Like wrestling has sort of come full. Like you don't have to be ashamed to be a wrestling fan anymore.
Yes.
Like it's actually accepted. You can go to a show. You can be public about it. You can say I'm going to a show. You can take a selfie and say I'm here, and no one's gonna go, "Oh, you nerd." Like it's actually fine now. It's okay. You can do it. You can have fun. So yeah, but back then, especially in Japan too, like you just wouldn't see that. So that was
crazy.
my one and only experience for the longest time.
So
what a cool guy though.
Yeah. So you guys didn't ask him to join the Bullet Club?
I mean, we joked about it, and I got him to put up the 2-suite for a shot, and I was gonna I was like, "Hey, could we like pretend you're gonna join?" He's like, "Yeah, do whatever you guys want, have fun with it." And I was like, "Nah, like, come on, what if people actually believe it?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe he's such a nice guy, he might have actually done it. You know what I mean?
Definitely gone with it.
Like for real, yeah. He's
Yeah.
just, and it was there's actually a life lesson to be taken from that, where it's like, no matter what happens, whether I stumble upon money, more fame, no matter what comes of this, it's like I gotta stay like this. Like it didn't get to Keanu. Like if it gets to me, like I'm a piece of shit. You know what I mean? I can't lose myself. And so I remind myself of that meeting. And I know not everyone's like Keanu at all. He's probably one in a million, but
it's one of the reasons he's lasted so long.
very true.
Right?
Very true.
Yeah. That's great, dude.
Yeah.
Remember when I emailed you and Cody asking if I could join the Bullet Club?
I don't.
Really?
I don't remember. You join the Bullet Club.
Yes.
I know we've discussed creative numerous times, but I don't remember actually. This is
I felt weird saying the Bullet Club, so I said your faction.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, okay.
And Cody was like, "Yeah, that sounds great. You're in."
we were gonna approach it through BTE, right?
Yes.
And then bridge that to other things.
Yeah, because I had a movie coming out.
Yes.
Or I had a show coming out, and I was like, "Yeah," and I want to like have someone attack me.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that. Yeah, this is I remember.
When I had all these like.
We were so open-minded back then too.
Which
like
is
we just
great.
wanted to, yeah.
Well, what was beautiful about that whole kind of era of you guys and your career was you were crossing into the mainstream in a very cool, like underground
and we were
way.
Kind of like you in a sense. We made sure that we were our own bosses.
Yes.
And even when, the suits, so to speak, in wrestling, like the guys that assumed most of the power would tell us no, or would tell us, "We prefer you do something in this way." We go, "Oh, you'd prefer that. Gotcha." And we would just do what we wanted anyway.
Yeah.
And like if we did something, that was a faux pas or something that maybe wasn't to their liking, we would just apologize for it after. And if it got over with the fans, or if the fans enjoyed it, we would kind of approach them with it afterwards, like saying, like, "Look, the people love it." You know what I mean? Like,
That is what is missing from all entertainment, what you just said. Because I'm like, my instinct is to not my instinct, like my core nature is to rebel, is to push back, is to kind of do things my way, right? And maybe it comes from watching too much wrestling, or maybe that's just
could be.
Actually, no, it's not. You know what? Because my extended family are all like this. We're
Oh,
all
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're all like I have a cousin who I've met him twice. He's older than me. I've met him twice when we were kids.
How much older? Like way older now?
Like probably 15 years or
Wow,
10 years
okay,
at
yeah,
least.
that's-
At least he's
yeah,
quite a bit
quite
older.
a bit older, quite
he
a bit
lives
older.
in India.
Okay.
Never left India. Again, I've met him like twice, right? In my life, twice.
Yeah.
Reconnected with him recently on social media.
Yeah.
He is exactly like me.
Wow.
In this, like, you know, kind of flipping the bird, like kind of causing chaos,
Yeah.
doing what he wants, right? But I think the whole like cancel culture thing and the hypersensitivity and people yelling at you,
Yeah.
and I'm not one to like bend the knee or succumb or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was a part of me that was like self-censoring.
Hopefully you don't come, but yeah.
I was just like,
So do you mean succum?
Succumb.
Succumb.
I
Okay.
was
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
succumb
Yeah.
to the,
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the pressure of like, oh my God, what will, you know, what will be the consequences of this?
Yeah,
When
so-
I kind of existed in a world where I'm just like, I don't really care.
Yeah, that was one of the, for me, that was most regrettable things about becoming an EVP for AEW, in fact, was that by becoming an EVP for AEW, we were then now on the hook for anything that we did, said, and if it wasn't to the network's liking,
Yeah.
or if it offended, people, fans, and they wrote a formal complaint, we could essentially be immediately taken off the air. And that responsibility to our fan base and the hundreds of people that we employed at AEW,
Sure.
that's a big responsibility. And it really made me miss the days of just having a ragtag group of guys that were just being creative and doing whatever it was that came to our minds that we thought would entertain our fan base and create new fans.
Totally.
And
Totally. Yeah.
the thing is, it's like, it was like myself, the Bucks, Hangman, Cody. It was like all of us, respectful, polite individuals, always trying to do things. We would never go out of our way to maliciously hurt anybody. And if ever we did anything in character in that manner, it was to tell a story and ultimately be in jest.
Sure.
But as the times changed, and I was actually recently watching some old clips back when I was joking around with the Bucks because they were going through some old footage. We're just laughing at all these old scenes. We're just doing the silliest of things. And it's like we knew we were joking. People loved what we were doing back then, and they're all laughing with us and at us.
Sure.
And we loved that they were. But we're just like, man, isn't it kind of sad that we just can't do it anymore?
Absolutely.
And it's like, and it's like, who did we hurt by doing this? Nobody. Who would we hurt if we did it again today? Nobody. But it would offend somebody, and then that somebody would go out of their way to make sure they would hurt us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they would feel empowered by that. And it's like, okay, well, I'll just stay in my shell and just do what I'm being paid to do then. And that part of it was kind of a Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I went through my own version of that.
I can imagine, yeah.
Where, again, it's just so crazy how similar our like paths have been.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because around the same time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like a boss now. I mean, I guess I was always a boss, but now I'm like, okay,
you are
like,
responsible for people's jobs and livelihoods,
Right.
and
yeah, and I'm not one of those guys that's just. I give a lot of people opportunities.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot of writers who their writing career, they thought it was over or would never even start, and I'm like, no, you're talented. Come with me. I'm going to give you a shot.
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, oh my gosh, if I keep rebelling, that person may not be able to feed their family.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I started kind of thinking beyond the scope of just, I'm this young buck creating chaos.
And you can't stop me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I think. But what I've been recently regaining is that all right, you know what? But things are just so fucked up in the world and in at least my business in the entertainment ecosystem, right? I mean, you have this like geriatric executive class that literally need to be taken out behind the barn.
That's this I've heard very similar sentiments in the video game industry as well.
Yeah.
Where it's very old guard protected.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they need to stop, right? Like give them awards.
Yeah.
But
give your Medal of Honor. Yeah.
But you need to stop. You need to step down. Right? I mean, like what Kathleen Kennedy did with Star Wars, to me, that's arson. That is just straight up arson.
See, those are the moments where I'm like, oh, I'm glad I've always been a Trekkie and not a Star Wars person. So
yeah. I don't. Yeah. Same. I'm not like a.
But I know how much it had hurt, like deeply hurt, lifelong fans of the series.
Yeah, or even just that, firing Gina Carano the way she did and like issuing a statement that, oh, this person's deplorable. You're just like, dude, this is divisive nonsense that has eroded the audience. Like you think that you've done something great and you're standing up to whatever, but what you've done is you've taken our already shrinking audience and you've continually eroded it to the point where it's heartbreaking walking around LA and talking to people because it's like makeup people, crafts people, they're losing their homes. Yeah. And this isn't happening in a vacuum. This is happening because the people at the absolute top, the executive class, have strategically or systematically made decisions, choices that have obliterated the business. Right? And so then now I'm in this. So I guess that's kind of lit a fire under me, right? Yeah. Because I'm like, okay, cool. So I just turned, like you, I just turned 40. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So what is the 40-something version of Adi like, right? Is it, it's not wearing makeup and like flipping the bird and acting and doing performance art. Yep. But it's like, okay, well, I never really wanted to be a leader. I just wanted to like make cool stuff and call it a day. Yeah. But now it's almost like I feel like I have to be a leader because I'm just like, oh my God, the amount of incompetence that is around me is frustrating to the point where it's like, okay, so I can either just like walk away and stop complaining about it and just go, look, this is just how it is the world is as it exists and stop fucking complaining. Yeah. Or I can go like, look, maybe I should be in charge. Yeah. And or maybe I need to just forcibly take power because this is just absurd. Yeah. You can't just take a 125-year-old machine that has been built, that's been handed down and been carefully kept. I'm talking about Hollywood. And yes. This is like a garden. I was gonna say, is you talking about Canada? I'm like, how old's our country again? Yeah. It's like a garden that's been kept and handed down from generation to generation, protected. Yeah. And they've just fucking burned it to the ground. Yeah. And you're like, there's just a lack of respect. Oh, you think it's a respect issue? I don't know what it is. It's a respect issue. Yeah. Right? Because it's there's this saying, and I'm going to butcher it. Well, make it your version. Make it your own. The thing is, the man who plants the tree for which he knows he will never sit in the shade of that tree, but still plants it anyways, understands the meaning of life. And if you make short-term thinking that economically cripple an industry, that lobotomize America's soft power, because let's be honest, Hollywood was America's greatest export. It was America's soft power, right? If you lobotomize America's soft power, you're just a fucking arsonist. And you're not thinking about future generations. That's true. Yeah, absolutely true. Right? This is one of the things I love about wrestling. Because, I was walking around backstage and there's just so much respect for what came before and who came before.
Yeah, I mean,
And I'm sure there's exceptions and there's things, and they're not
absolutely.
wanting to listen to the older guy.
But
Okay,
generally, yeah, etiquette is part of
Yes.
the process of
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But I mean, much like you said, to your point, it's just like, you can either kill the sheep for its meat, or you can shear the sheep and it will grow its fur back, and you can clothe hundreds of people for as long as that sheep is living.
Yeah.
It's one of those teach a man to fish, and you can feed him for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like with BT, going back to that, it's like as wrestlers, it's like we were a very tight knit unit, and it was kind of like all for one, one for all. Three musketeers, or however many of us there were at the end. And it was like, okay, if this whole show sinks, we understand it, and we're cool with it because we're all of the same understanding. But now this entity, which is AEW now, it's something that's putting food on the table for hundreds and hundreds of people. So you can't make selfish decisions that could possibly sink the ship. So I wouldn't say it's a matter of treading softly, because we have to make big strides, otherwise we won't flourish as a company.
Mm-hmm.
But by the same token, you can't overstep your boundaries, because a lot of people count on this as their livelihood.
Yes.
And like it's a matter now in today's world. How is it that you find your footing? How is it that you find those boundaries? How far can you push them without sacrificing any of the people that you're responsible for?
Yeah.
But by the same token, you want to stay true to your vision and your product and your fan base as well. So getting that nostalgia hit from watching the old BT, where it's like AEW exists because of this.
100%.
You know what I mean? So
it's weird that you call yourself an EVP. You're a co-founder. You're literally
essentially
co-founder.
That's what I am. Yeah,
You're a co-founder.
Yeah, that's more what I am than an EVP.
You guys essentially created a short film.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. You created a web series.
Yeah.
That then resulted in a indie movie that sold out the fucking box office. You're Terrifier. You're terrified.
Kind of.
You're literally terrified.
I was just saying, we're just
And then the suit descent. I shouldn't call Tony a suit. He's not a suit. He's like a sweet guy. I met him last night. Sweet guy.
Fantastic person. Yeah, great human being.
But Warner, they're suits. Warner are suits.
There are suits in Warner, of course.
They're suits.
Absolutely.
And the suits come in and like, okay, cool. Television product, boom, production. All these bells and whistles that you didn't have when you were shooting shit on your iPhone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But those things come with like this added baggage. And I think that's part of the balancing act. Balancing act is being able to kind of navigate. It's the Christopher Nolan thing. Christopher Nolan navigated this masterfully, right? Because he went from Memento, which is a no-budget movie, to
incredible movie,
Batman, to Dark Knight, to Inception, to Interstellar, and he has the budgets keep getting bigger, but the integrity, the artistic intent is never affected.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, with wrestling, it's like it's as things change platforms, whether it's us going from being BTE to then a one-time huge super show to then being now, we have 2 shows a week, and now we're on Amazon Prime and all this stuff. We're on Max now.
But you're on Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
Where? Internationally?
I guess so. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We just announced the deal. Yeah. It's pretty cool. But it's like, did we lose our charm? Now that we're not just filming things on our iPhones, and like editing with iMovie, you know what I mean? It's like, how do you pay respects to where we came from and not disrespect that fan base that we cultivated since day one? Because some of the people, they probably miss those old times as much as I do.
Because at the end of the day, right, that is an energy. It's an energy. Freedom is an energy. And I think at its core, wrestling is the ultimate expression of freedom.
Yeah, because it really, and I've always said it, it's like people will have their criticisms of maybe what I do, and that's totally fine. Like what you like, dislike what you dislike. Totally fine by me. I'm not like a one-size-fits-all kind of character, and it's totally fine to hate me or like me or love me, or just be indifferent.
Sure.
That's fine. But the beauty of wrestling is that it can actually be anything.
Yes.
And I think that's what we try to prove with BTE is that we can be a murder mystery. We can be a horror. We can be a comedy. We can be a raunchy comedy. We can be a rom-com. We can be dramatic. We can be we can be anything. We could be we can be animated. We even did an animated episode that one time.
Yeah.
We can be stop motion. And it's really but it can all exist within the same universe. And I think that's what makes wrestling very unique is that we can get away with it.
100%.
Until you can't, you know what I mean? Or until there's an expectation of like, you need to be this and this alone. And I think that's when I started to feel, I don't want to say bored. It's not bored. It's not that. It's just, and I don't want to say shackled either. But it's like when you are, for example, if someone says, hey, Kenny, I want you to be real serious and be a tough guy. Okay, I can do it. Or I can try to. So I go and I give it a shot. It works well. But then I feel like, you know what? I'm really feeling like I should be this instead in the next upcoming weeks. It's like, no. The network still wants you to be this. And it's like, okay. Or like the fan base still wants you to be this. Or we're changing our mission statement for the promotion and we are just going to be serious wrestling all the time, no ands, ifs, or buts. And that's just what it's going to be like from now until you retire. It's like defeating, you know what I mean? Whereas when we had BTE, it was like, if it made sense and if we could weave it into our stories in a way that made sense. And sometimes there was a sense of hilarity when it didn't make sense and we just kind of like bounced from one thing to another and it's like, whoa, you know?
Yeah.
Sort of like
Absolutely.
Like a Rick and Morty type of, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like with wrestling, again, it's ultimate expression of freedom. Also, subversion is the key to it. You know? So you get Hogan in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right? He's like all-American.
Absolutely.
Like, fucking jacked, right?
Yep.
But then the next generation, it's guys like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which are a subversion of Hogan at the end of the day, right? And then the next thing that pops. So again, this is all happening organically. It's not like
absolutely.
Shawn
That wasn't forced. Yeah.
No, it wasn't forced. It's just like the crowd resonated with Bret Hart.
Yep.
The sunglasses and all of it. But ultimately, like, it wasn't necessarily an everyman. But I think kind of deep down, I guess kayfabe was a thing before the internet. But like deep down, the audience knew like, hey, this guy's really good at this.
Yep.
And this is why I don't know why I like him, but he's really good at this.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you get to like Steve, Stone Cold.
Yeah.
And again, he's a subversion of all of that, right? Because he's breaking down the trope of the good.
Right. The do-gooder.
The do-gooder who's there to
Dudley
like,
Do-Right.
you know.
Yep.
Yeah, right. And there were so many people in that era that could have, like, remember the Patriot?
Kurt Wilkes, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Love the Patriot. He could have easily taken off. You know, if the Patriot was a character in the 80s, he would have been Hulk Hogan. But so then you get a subversion of that. Arguably, John Cena is a subversion of the entire Attitude Era.
Yep. A little bit, yeah.
Because it's like selling a corporate product.
Yeah. With a little, with a touch of Marvel, you know, the larger-than-life superhero body.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, doing larger-than-life superhero-esque things. You know, the amount of Make-A-Wish kids that he's visited and things that he's done. A normal man could not assume that schedule while still being 35-time champion or whatever it was.
Yeah, he lived the gimmick.
Yeah. He took on that responsibility.
Right.
Yep.
And so what you guys did with BTE, and again, I'm skipping about a decade here, but then I'm jumping to you guys.
Totally fine, yeah.
Was completely a subversion of what came before.
A little bit, yeah.
You know, because it was very like, this is wrestling, this is a product, a television product. You know, I don't think, because is it fair to say that the barrier to entry to be a wrestler has it's gotten easier because physically.
No, that is absolutely fair to say. It's remarkably easier nowadays.
It's easier, right? Because a guy
easier.
like Logan Paul.
Yep.
Would have been beaten up in 92. They would have beaten him up in the locker room. What are you? You know what I mean? It was like a closed ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Which now it's there's more of an integration. Their activations. They're doing deals with Nike. There's more celebrity crossover.
I mean, I've said it before. I don't know if I've ever said it publicly or not, but I think we're headed on a path where it's a couple of WrestleManias down the road, the main event's going to be Logan Paul versus Mr. Beast, and it's what is their wrestling acumen? How many miles have they put into it? It's does it matter? It's the process of evolution.
So that is the natural. I would argue that is because everything's a domino effect.
Yep.
Right? Everything is if someone knocks over a domino.
Yep.
So all of this that we're talking about, the Logan Paul thing, that's a domino effect. Starting with you and BTE.
With me?
With you guys and BTE.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I don't know is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, no, I mean, look, you had the do-gooder thing, the larger-than-life do-gooder thing was a domino that started with Hogan. You can argue Dusty and that, but that wasn't Dusty wasn't everyman.
Yeah,
Ric Flair was the villainous dude with the limos and the
private jets,
and all that
stuff.
And the
Rolexes, et cetera, yeah.
WWE Hogan turns it into a larger-than-life thing, right? So and eventually that trope gets worn out, and then something else comes in and subverts it again. Mm-hmm. So I'm not necessarily making any value judgment on it, but I am saying that there is you broke the fourth wall.
Yep.
Both literally and figuratively.
Absolutely, we did.
Which made it okay to break the fourth wall.
Yeah.
Both literally and figuratively.
Yes. Which
then allowed the industry to accept that.
Yeah.
And now outsiders are welcomed, right? Case in point, I'm walking around backstage and I'm like, hey guys.
True. But I would also argue that, and this has been heavily publicized as well recently. It's people are getting cast in roles for films just based on their social media following. And that's what that's kind of in relation to the Logan Paul thing. He just decided he wanted to be a wrestler or try wrestling, or his agent was like, hey, why don't you give this a shot? They're willing to give you a shot. You're in shape. You know what I mean? You have a huge community that we could plug into. I would say it's more that, but also as to your point too, it's that thing that was once so protected, that sort of industry insider kayfabe, where it's we don't tell anybody how things are backstage.
Right.
We don't tell you how things work, how we live, how we operate. Now the doors are almost wide open.
Absolutely, right?
It's a paper-thin curtain.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you really want to peek behind the curtain, just open it up for yourself. You know what I mean? And that's also an issue, and I think that's why fan bases nowadays are a little more sensitive than they should be, and bad guys can't be bad guys because they feel like they're a part of our real lives, and they want to be our real lives. So when they see us portraying these evil people, they actually assume that evil extension is really who we are on the inside.
Absolutely, yeah.
And in a way, you could almost say that's a great thing. They believe I'm a terrible person because I'm doing these bad things, but now they believe in it so much they don't even want to support your show, which is a problem.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so tough now to have a real life bad guy get the kind of heel bad guy reaction that he needs to get to propel your All-American, or I say All-American like it's Hulk Hogan, but you're good guy. You know what I mean? I'm not All-American at all. I'm Canadian born and lived in Japan for the past decade. So it's I'm a good guy, but it's hard for me to find that foil because it's very difficult for people to be bad and get away with it without the fans turning completely on the entire product.
Yeah, and I think the media plays a role in this too. So there was the Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah.
He fired his publicist.
Yep.
I think this was last year. And immediately there are a bunch of hit pieces that come out about him.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So they're like,
the Black Adam stuff, right? Or is this in addition to that?
In addition to that, it's
Okay.
like, he's actually, he says he's the hardest worker in the room, but he's actually the laziest worker in the room. And,
and
he's actually
he was 8 hours late on set.
Yeah,
or
he's
whatever.
8 hours.
Yeah.
He's like doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this, and I'm like, okay, I'm reading it, and I'm like, okay, good, fine, I don't know, and then
Right.
and then it's like, and then people, the fans have turned on him too. They see through him, and it's using video clips of him as the final boss calling people like trailer park trash.
Oh man, yeah.
So you're like, dude, you can't even be a heel, right?
You can't. You
Because
really
then you go to
can't.
heel and you're like, listen, you trailer park trash. So like, The Rock.
Yeah, I'm offended because I live in a trailer park. I get it. Yeah,
But that was a media hit job.
of course.
But I think actually, but in a way, that's part of the point of wrestling,
it is
right? Like,
I think so.
You're not. Like, how much worse? Sorry, not worse. He's amazing. How bad? The Undertaker would not have fucking connected if he had been like, "Hi, I'm Mark. I'm available for TV and film opportunities. I also have a tell-all book about my." You're like, "What the fuck?" Right? He didn't. He didn't. He stayed in gimmick. It's kind of like,
really did,
and I think
yeah.
at the end of the day, the audience the hardcore wrestling audience,
Yeah,
or the ones who like appreciate the art form, who love the art form.
yeah,
The more you put into the art form as a performer,
yep,
the more they will love you. And part of the craft is living the gimmick,
yeah. I agree.
right? Like
yeah.
the videos of all the kids crying over Cena punching
Yes.
Cody.
Yeah.
That is the art form.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, my hero just beat up Cody.
Yeah, and
That's amazing.
I can imagine, as a result of that, there may have been a number of angry moms and dads that were like, hey, like my kid won't stop crying and now he's going to burn all his John Cena shirts.
Yep.
And he threw a rock through my neighbor's window now or whatever. Or he was such a John Cena fan that now he's kicking his friends in the nuts. You know what I mean? Like it becomes that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's tough to be a bad. Like I love being a bad guy when I can do it, and but I do feel for the types of bad guys that want to do dastardly things, like very dastardly, uncouth things.
Sure.
Whereas when I was a bad guy, or when I am a bad guy, I like to be more like the hero, or not the hero, sorry, more like the villain of Last Action Hero, where I am not as smart as I think that I am, but my underlings will humor me.
Sure.
And I like to set myself up to look like an idiot. That is the type of villain that I like to play, but you do need the villains that do just terrible things.
Yes.
And things that would constitute you being an actual terrible person in society. And I think, especially now that people want to see like serious wrestling all the time. Well, if you want to see serious wrestling, don't you want to see like a serious villain or a serious? I mean, like when I watch something like Ozark, for example, like the bad people, all of the drug dealers and the people murdering people and stabbing people in the back, all that sort of like skullduggery type stuff. You can get away with it in a drama series, but for some reason we just don't have that type of leeway in wrestling anymore. It seems, or even if we do, you're going to offend a certain group of people that will then make a lot of noise trying to. I don't want to say cancel. That's the wrong word for it, but trying to get you to change course.
Sure.
And I think that takes some of the fun out of wrestling because I personally loved it when bad guys would be very bad. And then
I think that's the next subversion that's coming.
You could be right.
I think you're right. Because it's usually filling that void, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the subversion.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is a highly produced televised product that appears on USA Network for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it looks like Saturday Night Live sometimes, right? And then you're like, nope, I'm going to shoot this shit on an iPhone and it's going to change genres every week. You're like, okay. I would maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
This is just a theory. Get there, right?
This is just a theory.
Yeah.
But I think part of the reason the bad guy thing doesn't work as well today is people have really latched onto this idea that Shawn Michaels is the greatest to ever do it. And maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I'm not making a value judgment.
Yeah.
But
you mean as a performer or as a bad guy?
As a performer.
Oh, gotcha.
As a performer,
okay. Yeah.
Right? So he's like the measuring stick.
Yeah.
Right?
Generally, yeah.
Yeah.
At least in America, absolutely.
In America, right.
Yeah.
And then everyone's latched onto the idea that Goldberg was a psyop.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, yeah, he didn't fucking, he just had 2 moves. Like, fuck that. Fuck. But it's like, come on. You all loved Goldberg.
Yeah.
Like, everyone loved the crowd. You watch a Goldberg match, the crowd is fucking wild.
Bonkers.
Right?
Bonkers.
If Goldberg and Stone Cold had fought in their prime,
yeah,
just that alone would have just shut, you could have shut down New York City with that, right?
You would see like the footage on the news of all the local bars and stuff where everyone just cheering, like
actually
sure.
like what I wanted to do with my film career was actually make a Goldberg Stone Cold movie. And
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
But anyways, doesn't matter. It was weird because I was like working with, because when I first broke into Hollywood, it was like you got pegged by the caliber of actor you worked with. And because I was doing like Liam Neeson and Brad Pitt stuff, I couldn't do Stone Cold because people were like, oh my God, he's lost his mind. He's like working with Stone Cold. Now he'll be doing
people that aren't professional actors. Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
Which is just such bullshit. But
and I think Austin's a great actor.
He's a great actor, and he's
really
funny,
good.
and Steve's funny.
He's
like
very
really funny.
Very funny. He's just so good. Yeah.
But I think like,
is Goldberg a good actor? I haven't seen any of his. He must have done something, but I haven't seen. I know he's done he's hosted reality shows, but I've never seen his acting. He must have done something.
He was in Longest Yard with kind of
right. That's right. Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure. Like if it doesn't stick out of my brain, then I'm sure he did an okay job. Because if he did a terrible job, I'd remember it. So I'm sure he did fine.
So I think and you get this like match rating thing, where people are like, this is a 5-star match, right?
Oh my God,
and you're a beneficiary of this.
Yeah.
And you're in a big time a beneficiary of this, right? They're like, oh, the match went 45 minutes and there are all these moves and there were these kickouts and it was great, which is one style of wrestling. And I think it's great. And it's great, right? Personally, I also really love squash matches.
I love them.
Right? Because it adds an element of realism. Like, why is every match going to go 20 minutes? Like, why doesn't when Daniel Bryan lost in like 5 seconds at WrestleMania or whatever, so he got one bro kick and then he was out. And lost the title. That spurred the Yes movement, right? Mm-hmm. But that also makes sense. Like, it makes sense that in a sporting competition, some guy at the biggest stage of them all is going to just slip and fall.
Yeah, Kofi and Brock is another example.
Right.
Yeah. Where it's like, of course, the heavyweight UFC champion is just going to flatten someone who he has 200 pounds on. You know what I mean?
And then the fans get upset.
Of course,
they're like, "Oh my God, he squashed him! That's nonsense.
How
dare you?
How is this not 25 minutes long?"
Right?
Yeah, I got
and,
it.
And then you get mad at Brock. You're like, "Oh man, he probably has some bullshit in his contract."
Right.
Yeah. But that's part of wrestling. That's part of that. It's part of the work.
I think that's part of just allowing everyone to be a little too close to what goes on, or allowing them to think that they're in the know, because I think a lot of times they don't have their ducks in a row and they don't actually really know what's going on. Like, I've heard so many versions. I've been told so many versions of what's been happening backstage in my home promotion right now, when it's like, man, you really don't have a clue. And it's not my place, nor do I want to open up the can of worms to be the person to go, actually, this is what happened.
Right.
Because it's either you don't need to know, you shouldn't know. Because I know it sounds crazy as the guy that exposed a lot of things in wrestling due to BTE, but I still do think that there are a lot of traditions in wrestling and etiquette that needs to be honored at all times.
For sure.
And I think regardless if there's bad blood between some of the athletes and performers, we don't need to be throwing each other under the bus to people that don't understand what we do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you know, we're all fighting our own battles, and we all have our own struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps we as performers understand that amongst each other, but then trying to push that onto people that haven't been there, will never be there, and then asking them to choose sides. It just doesn't seem fair to anyone involved when it doesn't have to be an expose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is like the fan base getting a little too close to comfort.
Yeah.
But what's interesting also,
I mean, but again, that's also a personal choice.
Yeah.
Like other people will probably take it upon themselves to go like, no, actually, I want to speak on it, and this is how it's going to be. And people like that kind of irk me because they just want attention.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the ones that really respect the business and what we do probably share that same opinion. And
yeah,
because
I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying.
Yeah,
because there's a contrarian part of me that wants to say yes, but and your business is also about telling the truth. It's about there's like a truth. There's like
I don't want to outright lie, but I also don't want to be completely forthcoming with all the details that happen in our private life.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Or the things that happen backstage. It's just not for people to know.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Especially when you don't understand, you know, the context within it. You don't understand the people involved. You don't understand the backstory, the history. You know, what was the catalyst? You know, it's just like, why would you even go through the trouble to? Who are you explaining it to? What are you trying to gain from it? You know what I mean? Would I do that to try and be the good guy in a situation? What is it? Who gains something? Who gains anything from that? I don't know. To me, anyway, it's just like, I think when you start to do things like that, I think it hurts the business as a whole.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the show, like not only like the business of wrestling, but I think it hurts the immersion of the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, shit happens all the time. All the time.
Fucking love your business, dude.
Like,
it's like amazing.
There's crazy shit that happened yesterday that probably will never be unearthed. And there's probably crazy shit that happened, you know, at the last Netflix taping at WWE. There's probably something crazy that happened over in New Japan. It's just like, it's like if a little detail comes out, people think it's a huge scandal. But like these things are happening all the time. And I mean, I'm sure stuff in your industry, your business, and on a daily basis.
Well, yeah, because I was trying to think through what's the practical application to my line of work or my job.
I mean,
but I'm realizing there's a difference between dirty laundry.
Yep.
Airing dirty laundry.
Yep.
Which everyone loses when you do that, right?
Exactly.
You may get a little bit of attention for it, and that's what you're saying.
Exactly. That's it.
You get 5 minutes of attention and woo, and then you've like, okay.
I get my name tagged in a couple social media posts. Who gives a shit? Yeah.
But then there's the other side of it, which is this isn't necessarily. You ever read that book, Truth in Comedy?
No, actually.
Have you done improv classes?
I mean, I just do it on the daily for fun, but sure.
So
I did it in BT a lot.
Yeah. No,
I did it in drama when I was in high school, and yeah.
Sure. There's a book about improv called Truth in Comedy.
Okay.
And I'm going to butcher it, but basically the point is, it's your comedy works best when it's emotionally truthful.
That's great.
And I feel like that applies to wrestling.
It does. Time. I mean, yeah, like if now that you mention, I mean, a lot of the comedy in BT was rooted in reality.
Yes.
Yeah, even though some of it was very whimsical and out there, there was something to inspire it. You know
Absolutely,
what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
it was great.
Yeah, and I think in wrestling, it's a lot of the same. Yeah, I mean, even like when we were in the car, I mean, there was a fiasco for a moment, and that could have been the first thing we spoke about. You could have aired that dirty laundry if you wanted to. I could have aired something from Any time. I could have aired something from yesterday. I could have aired something from last week. But like, why? Who is it to? What am I gaining from it? How does it benefit our industry, our business? How does it help the fans even? That does, I don't, there's no point to it. But
yeah. And, I think in a lot of ways,
I think people become, especially people in our industry that look for that type of, that short-term, short-sighted attention. They never find that long-term success out of it.
Mm-hmm.
They will get their 15 minutes of fame, and they'll probably feel real good about themselves while they're getting that attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's gone, it's like they're chasing the dragon. They're looking for that next hit. How am I going to get that next 15 minutes because I miss it?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll try to find the next person to throw under the bus. And this will happen from people that jump back and forth. Whether it's someone that's jumping from WWE to us or us to WWE, it's like everyone's looking to burn somebody because they just want their name in the headlines.
Sure.
And I feel like not saying that we're all together in this, but we're not exactly as popular as wrestling is and as accepted as wrestling is. I still think it's a little niche, a little bit.
It's extremely niche.
Yeah. So
it's a niche that has been amplified because of the internet, which has taken niches and sub-communities and subcultures that have a rabid fan base and been able to monetize them in ways beyond just a weekly TV show. Mm-hmm. So it's become a more powerful niche because of all of that.
I apologize for
all
that.
Good.
Jeez. That's our good friend, actually.
It's Jay?
Barry. Yeah, Mr. Barry. It's all
I love
good.
Mr. Barry.
I do too. Yeah,
Such a good guy.
He's like family to me, for real.
Dude, so Barry's son,
Yeah.
Barry Bloom, his son would make an epic heel manager. And I told him this.
Oh man, he would. He actually would.
I was like, you'd make a great heel manager. He's like,
so true.
For real or like kayfabe? I'm
no,
like, well,
he's
both.
good.
Like both.
You're right. You're actually right.
Right?
And he's actually a really good actor too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way he commands his voice, right?
Yes.
I'm just like, dude, you could be the IRS.
Sniveling, yeah.
Remember IRS
of course.
Rotunda
Yeah,
Senior?
Mike Rotunda. Yeah. Oh, that's what a great eye. Yeah, I never even thought about it. Like I've always looked at him as like I see talent in him, but never once like thought like, oh, manager. I never once. I just look at him and like, you're just a talented guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never looked at him and like, how would you fit in the wrestling world? But manager, you'd be like, man, who is kind of like a Harvey J. Whippleman kind of.
Totally.
Yeah. That's great. That'd be so good. Yeah.
And he's learned so much about the business just from walking around his dad.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like, I didn't realize the extent. I mean, obviously, I love Barry.
Very intelligent. Yeah,
I love Barry.
Yeah.
Very, very good dude. I didn't realize the extent to which he's an elder statesman within the wrestling community.
Oh, my goodness.
I had no idea until...
He's seen and done it all.
Yeah.
He really has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, a dude from Netflix, this guy Benjamin, who is one of the execs on Devil May Cry, he's like, there's this guy named Barry who's like a legend in the wrestling business, and he's seen it all. I mean, he was when the NWO and the WCW and there were the Monday Night Wars, he was negotiating all the contracts. I'm like, who are you talking about, Barry Bloom? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, it's my buddy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For every story that I know, there's probably 20 to 25 more that I don't. And they're all, not only are they great, interesting stories, but they're history-changing, business-changing stories that he was at the forefront of.
Yeah.
And I would say that his dealings, have allowed for, they ushered the way for wrestlers to make a better living doing what we do. And if it weren't for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He allowed us a lot more freedoms and just to be compensated and treated more fairly as human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he cares.
He does.
Which is
that's
awesome.
That's why I'm saying he's really like a family member to me. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Like through all your health stuff.
Yep.
like him and I would talk, and I'm like, oh wow, like you. Yeah, he.
No, it's not just. It wasn't like an obligation because he wanted my money. It was not that.
It was not that. It wasn't like it wasn't Jerry Maguire.
No,
It was the opposite of Jerry Maguire.
Yeah. It was more. It wasn't show me the money. It was like show me your doctor's report.
Yeah.
Tell me you're healthy. Or if not, like no one's getting their hands on you. That kind of thing. I'm like, no, I think I can do it. It's like, no, you have to know you can do it. It's just, I don't care about the money. It's just, you need to be healthy.
Yeah.
And and this is coming from someone now who like is understanding of his own mortality now. It's like I'm being way more cautious, and as cautious as I am, Barry is still more cautious than I am. Whether it costs me or him money or not, that's not the primary concern at all. Yeah, he's like you said, he's someone who actually cares.
Yeah.
Which
crazy.
is great.
He's always like hilarious. He's just like, how many shows did you make? And like, I'm like, I don't know. It just kind of like this all just happened.
Yeah.
I'm excited for him to watch Devil May Cry because I think that one out of the recent ones, that one will. How do I say this in a way that doesn't make me sound like I'm shitting on the things that came before, which I'm absolutely not doing. It's just there was a part of me that I liked wrestling.
Yep.
I liked comic books.
Yep.
And I liked video games. These are like super niche things.
Heck, so do I.
These are all like niche.
Go figure.
These are like niche things, right? Growing up, they were super niche. Now video games couldn't be more mainstream.
Absolutely.
Comic books couldn't be more mainstream if we're talking like the big two.
Yep, Marvel, DC, right? Yeah.
Everyone knows Iron Man.
Yeah.
When most obscure character ever. Not ever, but
he
wasn't.
He was like until Robert Downey Jr. played Iron Man. I was like, who is this? Not who is this guy, but for sure some people would go like, I don't care.
Right.
So
you were asking me earlier, like, why DMC? Why why did you do this? And why did you pick DMC and whatnot? I'm like, because I loved it.
Yeah.
And I do love it.
Yep.
But I'm also aware that DMC is seen as niche.
It is.
And I'm like, my objective.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I never knew I wanted to see a DMC adaptation until you told me that you were doing it. And I'm like, wait a minute, that would be really fucking cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's not an obvious
No, it's
thing.
not.
It's not an obvious, like I immediately saw it. Actually I went into Capcom not to get DMC. I didn't tell you the story.
No, you didn't.
So I had a meeting with Capcom and this guy Taki Yanamoto is there. He's a very, very sweet gentleman. He'd been there for a very, very long time. He was there, translator, other people in the room. And I'm like, and they're like, we want to work with you. You're very talented. I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm like, I want to do Dino Crisis. And they're like,
oh.
And they're like whispering. They're like, why Dino Crisis? I'm like, because it's sick.
It is.
And then they're whispering. And then they're like looking at how I'm dressed. And I was like,
how were you dressed?
Like a DMC character.
Okay.
And they're like,
so you had like a trench coat.
Yeah, I used to wear kind of crazy, I'd like leather.
Yeah. I know.
I was not.
Yeah, of course.
Not well put together. Like now I go to the inauguration and shit. So now I have to
be a little more prim and
proper.
Yeah,
and I'm 40. I can't be doing this. But this was, I was like in my 30s. I was like 32 when I had the conversation. And they were like whispering. They're looking at me. They're looking at my dress. They're like, "We feel like you're a better fit for Devil May Cry."
Wow.
And I go, okay, yeah. I mean, because in my mind, it was like Devil May Cry was a much,
Now, allow me to ask this then. Had they approached you with something else, if they said, for example, what would you say to Phoenix Wright? Would you have said no?
Yes, I would have said no.
Really?
Yeah.
What is there a particular, is there a series, okay. So you wanted Dino Crisis. They came at you, they responded with Devil May Cry.
Yes.
Aside from Phoenix Wright.
Yeah.
Is there something that they could have also attacked you with that you would have said, oh, I didn't think about that, but actually that might be sick?
I'd thought through their entire catalog.
Yep.
like, because that's just at least in that point in time in my life, like I was just rapid fire and knew too much, and like it was just too
sensory overload.
Sensory overload. Yeah. So I knew their catalog, right?
Because I would, and this might be me talking, but I would love for you to. I would love to see you at some point attempt something that is straight horror.
Yeah.
I would love to see it.
Well, you emailed me and you asked, man, if you remember this, you emailed me. You're like, hey, dude, are you doing Resident Evil?
Yeah.
Right?
I still would love for you to do it.
Yeah. I think horror in animation.
And I remember even asking you, would you help me do a Halloween-themed BT episode?
Yes. And I was like, yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. I really wanted to do it. I wanted to use like Universal Studios sets. I wanted to do like a Halloween.
We should still do that.
I mean, it'd be sick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Haddonfield and like there's Michael Myers. I mean, but there's no more BTE, but I'd love to do it.
Reboot it. BTE the reboot.
Or just the finale. You know what I mean? Like everyone was always saying, like amongst our team, it was always like, man, there was no finality. There was no closure.
I actually thought you guys should do, I think we talked about this and I was like, hey, I should put a proposal together to like explain what I'm thinking. But I was like, you guys could do a BTE movie.
I think we could.
And have it be like a Sundance movie. You know what I mean? Like actually have it be a movie that gets distribution, like theatrical distribution.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I was thinking more of just like for the fans, but like a lot like your Power Rangers short. You know what I mean? Something that clearly is very high quality, top quality, is something that would catch people off guard, but when they watch it, they go, you know what? This is really cool, and I would love to see a full-length feature something of this.
Yeah.
And whether they get it or not, but I would love for that kind of project. And whether that's our closure or not, I don't know. But like for me, I've always wanted to challenge. I always challenge myself with our Halloween episodes. Like our Halloween episodes were mostly my brainchild, and I put a lot of effort into those, more than almost any of the other episodes. And they were always so fun for me to do. And yeah, I remember we did that one where we filmed it all in the Jericho Cruise. And geez, like Hangman was the only one who actually understood how to use like the editing software. But, I had the idea of how it needed to look, how it needed to sound, how, the scene transitions and all that were needed to happen. And we filmed all day. And I think like we docked at 7 a.m. and we were sitting on that boat till 8 a.m. just trying to hammer that out because we needed to get it out that day. And like Hangman, we just didn't sleep. Everyone else like, we got a dip, man. And we got that episode out. And yeah, I always loved our Halloween episodes. That's one thing I think I'll miss the most.
We're at time.
Okay.
Do you guys want to wrap anything up?
No, we'll just keep going for a bit. We'll keep going for a bit.
Do you want to do like an intro?
No. We'll just keep going for a bit. It's okay. Just keep
I
running.
have the 15 minutes.
I know. You were asking me like what other Capcom IPs. Right?
Yeah.
So I was doing the math in my head. I said, okay, Resident Evil's cool.
Super cool.
But there's been so much Resident Evil.
That has not been done right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they and it's interesting. I actually went to Constantin, the German company that owns the rights to make Resident Evil movies. And Paul Anderson and Jeremy Bolt. Like Jeremy Bolt's a friend of mine.
Yep.
But I went to Constantin and I was like, hey, so what do you want to get rid of these rights? Like, what can I offer you?
Yeah.
And hand them back to me. I did that a few years ago. But the point is, there's a lot of Resident Evil, right? And I would have done Street Fighter, in 2 seconds.
Yep.
Right? I know exactly how I would have done Street Fighter. I fucking love Street Fighter.
Yeah.
I feel like my Street Fighter would body everyone, like people would stop doing Street Fighter if I did Street Fighter because it would be so fucking good.
And
But-
it's at an all-time high for interest.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it was during this peak because I could feel Street Fighter kind of resurging because there was a nostalgia to it.
Yep.
But also it was ongoing. Right? So it wasn't like, it was like this nostalgia factor and it was like a modern factor and all the games, most of the games have been great. And
And also with esports on the rise too, like
Esports-
now people are actually looking at that as like a feasible
Yes.
like job opportunity.
Exactly, right? And then when you take a laundry list of the most iconic game characters of all time,
Mega Man's up there.
Mega Man's up there, Ryu and Ken are up there, Guile possibly is up there, right?
Yep.
So I went, yeah, okay, I would do Street Fighter in a heartbeat. And me doing Street Fighter, again, would be too good. Like
Final
too good.
Fight would be sick
However,
too. Yeah.
well, I would put Final Fight as a part of.
Yeah.
You'd have to
Which it kind of is.
It is.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Just,
it absolutely
just
is.
in a way that you could take like Devil May Cry and add Darkstalkers to it. I know it's not the same thing because Final Fight
Right.
is in Street Fighter, right?
I know what you mean.
There's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
synergy that happens
For
there,
sure.
right? So, but I knew that Street Fighter was such a crown jewel IP. It's such a crown jewel.
It really is. Yeah.
Just like Assassin's Creed for Ubisoft, right? Because
Absolutely.
in a way, Street Fighter is their Assassin's Creed.
Yep.
It is Capcom's Assassin's Creed. So I went, okay, so if I go in with Street
In
Fighter.
a way, like, yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, I would say it's the most probably identifiable to the common everyday folk. But in terms of revenue, it's Monster Hunter. But yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
but
in terms of
absolutely.
like the legacy, because Japanese
Yeah.
companies are very
Oh, for sure.
concerned about legacy.
Yeah, if you say who's Ken and Ryu, people will know. But
Yes.
you go like, who's Rathalos? We're like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I knew that, hey, you go into Street Fighter, there may be red tape, there may be
Yeah.
politics. For me to really be able to do my thing with it, I'm going to have to do the, because with me it's a dial, right?
You want to crank it all the way to 11.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Laserhawk is cranked to a fucking 8.
Yeah.
With DMC, I did it at like a 2, not even, maybe like a 1.5, because
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm actually just going to do Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
And you did
do
it. Yeah.
some, turn the assassin into a French frog
Right. Yeah.
kind of thing, right?
Yep.
And Street Fighter. So, anyways, Street Fighter, I was like, okay, this may be more of a thing, and I'm like, okay, let me just. So I would have probably, if it came down between Devil May Cry and Street Fighter,
Ooh.
it would have been a hard decision. I'd have probably still gone with Devil May Cry because even though Street Fighter is a quote bigger deal, it's more mainstream.
There's a lot more ground to cover.
A lot more down. Well, I would have.
Because at least the central figure in Devil May Cry is going to be Dante.
Yes.
Whereas like you have to kind of give again, if I were for whatever reason put in charge of it, I'd be like, how do I feature all of the characters in a great way? And that would be a challenge.
Well, you don't.
I would want to try though. Everyone kind of needs their shining moment, I think, to look cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like I would hate it. I would hate it if it's like, all right, okay, we're gonna see Balrog versus Fei Long, and then Balrog just kind of straight punches him, and he goes spinning in the air, and he wins.
Yeah.
Like there's a ton of Fei Long players out there going like, what? This is like Bruce Lee. What the heck? You know what I mean? It would be like everyone kind of needs their moment in the spotlight, sort of. And I also find too that for whatever reason, whether it be like past animated features of Street Fighter or even Tekken, the wrestling characters get jobbed so
All the time.
hard,
All the time,
and that
yeah.
hurts my feelings so bad.
yeah.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? The most recent Tekken, I think, was Bloodlines. Is that what it was that came out? I think King did very good in that tournament, that particular one. Maybe made it to the semis.
Yeah.
I was like, man, King's actually doing well. That's great.
Yeah. I don't understand how King's not the face of Tekken.
He's
their
so
most
cool, man.
He's fucking cool.
He is so cool.
But at the end of the day, Devil May Cry to me was, it's like I have to ignore the numbers, right?
Yep.
I have to ignore the numbers. Like Monster Hunter, you're absolutely right. Numbers-wise, eclipses everything else.
Yep.
But I'm passionate about Devil May Cry. Like I love this thing.
Yeah.
And I love this niche
That's
thing.
the most important
And now
thing,
I can
yeah.
take it and hopefully blow it up to a point where I can expand it and there'll be more of it.
Yep.
Right? So and I didn't know that there was a Devil May Cry 5 coming out.
You didn't know?
No.
Wow.
I got
okay.
actually unhappy when they so I signed the deal and I'm like, yeah, great, I'm doing it. And then they're like, good news, we have Devil May Cry 5 coming out.
Were you hoping to play it before doing your adaptation? Is that what you're saying? Or just...
No, I actually thought the franchise was dead.
Oh, I got you.
This was my thing. Like I liked Dino Crisis. I
see.
And I thought I was bringing this thing back, and I'm like, oh, this is like a modern fucking thing. Like this is ongoing. Then I should have done Street Fighter.
Or if you're into like those types of things, I could see doing a great Rival Schools as well.
Yes,
that would be so
Rival Schools
sick.
Is sick. And
I love it.
The costumes with Rival Schools eclipse everything else in Capcom.
For sure,
in my opinion,
they're so
they're epic.
So underrated, so underrated. Yeah, but love Rival Schools.
So I what I would. So Phoenix Wright, because you asked me about Ace Attorney. You're like, oh, do you like it? I love Ace Attorney. I love it. I love it. I love Beautiful Joe. To me, Capcom is just in the way like DC was for kids and Marvel was for teenagers.
Yep.
Back in the day.
When
there were comic books, right?
I would say it's a little different now.
Very different.
Yeah.
Now DC is for like Doom fans.
Old people. Yeah.
But back in the day, but like Nintendo was for kids. Capcom was for teens. That's like the kind of the way I saw it. So in a way, it was very not hard to pick. I mean, because again, I love DMC. But when you open it up to all of Capcom, you're like, whoa, this is like the greatest IP library ever.
Yeah.
Because they're so unique and they all have these like unique identities, right? I mean, like Ace Attorney is so different than, I don't want to say beautiful, than Dino Crisis.
Yep.
They have these like, again, identities of the world. And in a world that has become more and more generic and more bland, these cultural touchstones from when we were younger of like, whoa, this was this like weird eccentric thing that existed when we were younger.
Yeah.
And just came out and you're like, what is this?
Yeah, kind of like Okami is another one too.
Absolutely.
Which is also coming back, and beautiful, beautiful art design in that game. That's like a timeless, I remember we're talking about stuff that may not age so well. And Okami is one that will always age well. That art style is so gorgeous. Yeah. I'm really excited for the new game coming out. Yeah. But well.
Devil May Cry, man. So it's crazy that it's like finally like out.
Yep.
Now, because you're
it's on the horizon.
Yeah.
At least at the moment of this particular filming, we're very close to it releasing.
Yeah. By
I'm
the
not
time
sure.
this releases, it will have been out.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, man.
I did have a specific question too.
Yes.
I don't know if this is going a little too deep. When you sign on for these projects, do they make an order for like, okay, we will give this to you. You got carte blanche, but it has to be 8 episodes or 10 episodes or 12. Did they decide that, or do you decide that?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So usually the way it works is like Netflix will be like, hey, we're doing Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Or Amazon, we're doing Tomb Raider.
You did that, didn't you?
Fuck no.
Just kidding. I'm kidding. I saw something.
I know. We were joking about it. I'm like, dude, people are yelling at me about this Tomb Raider. People just yell at me when animation's bad now. Anyway, I think it's funny. But so usually the way it works is, streamer or studio. Go ahead.
I do think it's cool that people just default to you as a video game adaptation guy. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing.
No, it's like you're just known as that guy now. That's cool. But anyway, go ahead.
Better than the guy who doesn't respect copyright laws and makes short films on YouTube. So it's an upgrade.
Well, I like that part of you too, though. Yeah, I like that too.
You need to bring that shit back.
Yep.
But usually the way it works is they'll be like, hey, we're making Tomb Raider and we're making X amount of episodes, right? This show came about in a very unique way because I don't like to be told what to do.
Yep.
I demand creative control or else I'm just not fucking doing it.
Right.
And feel like I have, earned or at least have equity with the audience and
for
with
sure
the network
Absolutely.
and the whatever to be able to justify that. So when Capcom offered me Devil May Cry, I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna get the license.
Yeah,
from
I'll
you,
be
or
on my way now.
I'm gonna buy it from you.
Yeah.
Right. And then there was an announcement. I think I showed up with makeup on.
Yep.
And announced that, hey, I'm doing Devil May Cry, and people were like, well, what? Immediately that night. And I had a migraine the day of that announcement. So I went on. This was like 2018.
Yeah.
I had a migraine, but I go on IGN.
Yeah.
Announced that I have DMC. I have this makeup on.
The makeup have lead in it? Is that why you had a migraine?
No,
Okay.
I think I was stressed out.
Yeah, I mean,
stressed
of course,
out.
yeah.
And then later that night, I had like a arranged marriage date thing that I think I also mentioned to you. I'm like,
did?
I'm getting,
You did?
I'm getting married, and it's an arranged marriage. And you were like, what? You got an arranged marriage? But so,
Yeah, I mean, it was surprising
nowhere.
to me for someone who just kind of walks to the beat of his own drum.
Yeah.
You know, it's like now you're just being told what is happening. Yeah. Anyhow,
but
yeah.
so we get this arranged marriage thing. What am I saying? Arranged marriage thing.
Migraine, arranged marriage,
Migraine.
and lots
Right.
of stress.
Right.
Yeah.
That night, I get a call from a senior executive at Netflix, one of the upper management,
Yeah.
top 7 guys, and he's like, Adi, what is this Devil May Cry thing? And I'm like, well, it's really cool. And I'm explaining. He's like, well, are you doing this with us? Like, how come you didn't tell me about it? I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna figure it out. But yeah, I'll do it with you guys. He's like, okay. Then months go by.
Yeah.
And I'm just working on the script
Yeah.
with Alex Larson, who's the co-writer, did a lot of the heavy lifting. He's just an amazing guy, right?
Yeah.
He wrote the battle rap movie, Bodied, that I produced. And so we were working on it for a long time. I'm talking like years.
Yeah.
And every time I would be, talking to Netflix and different executives, I'd be like, okay, so DMC, are we doing this together? Like, and I'm like, yes, absolutely. We're absolutely doing it together.
Yeah.
And then they're like, is he for real, or is he like playing hardball? Like what is going to, But I'm like, no. Finally, at the end of it, we did the deal. So years go by, we finally do the deal and we figure it out, right? But the process was, I didn't want to end up in a negotiation over creative.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to figure out for myself
Yeah.
what show I want to make,
Right.
crystallize the vision. I don't do just 1 draft or 2 drafts or 3. I'm not trying to like rush a thing into production.
No.
We did about 40 drafts of the thing.
Wow.
40.
Were they huge departures from one another? Or
No.
were they,
No. It's like a sculpture. It's a sculpture, and you're getting like adding more details, right?
Gotcha.
More
Gotcha.
details.
Yeah.
So yeah. So at the end of the day, they were like, we just did like 40 fucking drafts of the thing
Yeah.
to get it better. It's like a sculpture. I just wanted to keep refining
Right.
because, again, this was me intuitively going, everything is moving towards sameness.
Like a bodybuilder working towards the
Right.
Olympia.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was trying to counteract sameness, and like time. By pouring hours into it, I can combat sameness.
Yeah.
And no one else
Yeah.
who's releasing a show will have put this many hours into the fucking script.
Did you ever get to that point where you sort of started to doubt whether, because you had seen these drafts so many times and the drafts were so similar to one another, that it's like, man, like I've seen similar drafts of the same fucking story for so long, I don't even know if it's good anymore myself.
No.
Like, no, you always believed in your work?
100%.
Oh, that's
I had
great,
like
yeah.
way too much self-confidence the
Wonderful.
whole time.
That's great.
I
Yeah.
like never, and and I kept getting feedback from people who read it, like, because and part of it is, I had script readers and shit that I would send
Yeah.
it to and say, okay, I know it's good.
Yep.
I know you're going to say it's great. I need you to isolate the parts that suck.
I have another question. This is
Yeah.
a nerdy ass question.
Yes.
While you were writing it and you're writing these drafts, did you picture the scenes in PS2 style graphics?
No.
Okay, because I feel like I would.
Yeah,
I would
no.
picture like Dante's like character model in like that world.
No, I was picturing the whole thing in 2D animation. the whole
Wow,
time.
okay,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Because I used to think in cartoon. So, I used to think in cartoon. But yeah, so it was just, it was just a refining and refining and refining and refining. I'm like, this is going to be as good as it can possibly be because I want to win. I want this franchise to win.
Yeah, because it's a victory not only for the series, it's a victory for Capcom, the fans, for video games as a medium.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the president of Capcom broke kind of their norm. Like they don't just give
they don't do it.
individuals
They don't do
a
it.
deal like that. Usually it'll be a company to company.
Like I've heard of even rumors of this is time way
Spielberg and Mega Man?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where it's like they wouldn't even give up Mega Man to Spielberg. It was that protected.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a huge trust barrier that you were able to break through.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a, you want to do right by those people.
Yes,
I totally
exactly.
get it.
It's
And
like
the
if someone
fans
trusts you,
Yep.
then I'm like, no, I'm going to work 50 times harder
Yep. Exactly.
than I
And
than
failure
I
is
need
not
to.
an option
Right,
kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, just because I had the creative control doesn't mean that I wasn't taking input. And I didn't want
Absolutely.
the input. I'm like, please.
Which is why it
it's a
always
team
behooves
sport.
me where it's like people just kind of go, I got this license, cha-ching, easy
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's fucking pump it out.
Yeah, now we got to make a
it's
Tekken
insane.
movie. Yay. And
Yeah,
you're like,
it's
why are you
insane to
doing
me.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's arson. It's arson.
Yeah, like you said, yeah.
It's cultural arson.